Yo, hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Birds of Prey of Like Minds. Take a look at this comic cover right here. Now, Birds of Prey of Like Minds starts off Gail Simone's run on the Birds of Prey comic. And in between the trade paperbacks of Old Friends, New Enemies, and Of Like Minds, there is a big gap of issues that were never collected into trade. Now, I believe Old Friends, New Enemies ended around issue number 20-something, and Of Like Minds starts around issue 50-something. So there's a big 20 to 30 issue gap of comics that were never actually collected into trade. However, worry not. Although those comics may have been good and important to the Birds of Prey comic itself, they're not absolutely necessary for your reading. Actually, to be completely honest, all you really need to pick up is the first Birds of Prey trade, which was Black Canary, Huntress, Oracle, Birds of Prey, or whatever you call it. Black Canary, Oracle, Birds of Prey. It has multiple different titles. And then jump right into Of Like Minds and be perfectly fine with your Birds of Prey reading. Now, as I say beforehand, Birds of Prey of Like Minds is the start of Gail Simone's run on Birds of Prey. And it's really where the team starts to become, well, a team. I mean, to be honest, up to this point it's been mostly just Oracle having Black Canary going around, fighting evil, and with a few guest stars popping in here and there, like Catwoman, or Batgirl, or, of course, Huntress. However, it is with Of Like Minds that this actually starts to become a team. You know, Huntress comes in and starts to become a member of this team. The question is this, is that although Gail Simone is an incredibly good writer, will she actually be able to pull off this Birds of Prey team? Will she actually be able to find the balance between all these characters and make this team have the synergy it needs to be, well, successful, not only as a comic, but also as a superhero team? So with that said, let's get into the story itself. Of Like Minds starts off with Black Canary doing what Black Canary does best. Beat up people. I mean, come on, it's Black Canary. She is just badass when it comes down to that. But basically, she's taking down this man who is blackmailing some people and taking away money from his employees. And she's saying to him, you know, I'm going to let you off the hook this time. However, if I catch you doing shit again, I'm going to just beat the crap out of you. So she returns back to Oracle, and Oracle is monitoring this man that Black Canary threatened. This man then starts writing a suicide note on his computer. Black Canary rushes to his house to make sure that he doesn't commit suicide, however is ambushed by a new Fabio-looking villain named Savant. Or at least I think that's how you pronounce it. Now, Savant, like I said, looks like Fabio, only with blonde hair. And at first, you really can't take this guy seriously, until he starts beating the shit out of Black Canary. Now, let me get something in your head right now. Black Canary is one of the best martial artists in the DC Universe. There's very few people that you can say is better than Black Canary. You know, Lady Shiva, Richard Dragon, Bruce Wayne, and you could maybe argue Dick Grayson. But Black Canary is one of the best fighters in the DC Universe. And Savant takes her out. Not only does he take her out, but he breaks her legs, handcuffs her, and keeps her as a hostage. Why? Well, see, Savant has a big overall mission in life. What is that? To find out the secret identity of Batman. Because when Savant was starting off as a vigilante himself, he felt as though he was besmirched, insulted by the Batman. And thus, he is going to hold Black Canary hostage and use her as leverage to get the secret identity of Batman from Oracle. Oracle has to then play along with his games, while at the same time enlisting the help of Huntress to free Black Canary. The question is this: will Black Canary get out of this situation unharmed? Will Huntress show that she can commit herself to the team? Or will Oracle crack under pressure and give in to the demands of Savant? And in the end, is the team any better off? than it was in the beginning? Well, you're just going to have to read and see. On to the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Let's start things off with the art. Now, as you guys may not know, Ed Benz is one of my favorite artists. He's not quite up there with Jim Lee or George Perez as my favorite top tier artist, but he's definitely within the top 5. I utterly enjoyed his stuff on the Justice League of America, Volume 2. And knowing that he was going to be with Birds of Prey for quite some time filled my heart with joy. It just filled it so much with joy because his art is absolutely stunning. I must admit, though, the art in this, while still absolutely good, has a little bit more of a cartoony feel to it than his later work in Justice League of America. Don't worry, though, it starts to mellow out a bit towards the second volume in Gail Simone's run, and it starts to look a little bit more like a realistic Ed Benz style than the kind of semi-cartoony-ish style you get here. Putting all that aside, though, the art is still stunning, and it will grip you in and captivate you. And I mean, the only thing I really don't like is, Black Canary's hair. It looks very early 2000-ish with the two weird strains of bangs coming down that girls did for some time, which I never quite understood why they did it. But don't worry, she gives herself a haircut and it looks a lot better later on. Writing. Well, I said this before and I'll say it again. I like Gail Simone. My favorite Gail Simone material particularly was her run on Wonder Woman. And I often said that Gail Simone and Grant Morrison are kind of two sides of the same coin. In that Gail Simone does a fantastic job at dialogue. Can really work human interactions between people, whether it be between friends, family, enemies, or allies. And Grant Morrison does such a fantastic job of actually doing overall story arcs and plotting out these in-depth, in-detail stories. However, their strengths are actually their weaknesses. Gail Simone may not be the best when it comes down to plotting overall stories, and then Grant Morrison's dialogue with humans sometimes can come off as borderline robotic. However, I'm happy to say that Gail Simone pulls off the story in this very nicely. It's well paced. It's an interesting story because Black Canary, our main badass of the group, is actually tied up for a good amount of time. She is handcuffed and she needs to find a way out of being handcuffed. And it's really interesting seeing her methodology and her thinking her way through the problems that she's in. And it has a very suspenseful nature to it. You don't know what's going to happen or how these characters are going to get out of the situation, because the situation that they're in is pretty grim and it has a very good feeling to it, in the sense that you're in constant suspense. And I like that. You're taking characters and you're putting them in situations that normally they wouldn't be in and they have to think their way out of. The best way I can describe it is, have you ever seen Star Trek The Next Generation's episode Best of Both Worlds? Any Trekkie would have watched it. It's probably the most famous of the Next Generation episodes, or at least one of the most talked about. And one of the things that's interesting about that episode that I really like, other than the fact that it was just fantastic and a really good Riker episode, is the fact that they actually had to think their way through the problem and the situation. You know, Picard has been turned into Locutus of Borg, the Borg are on their way to Earth, and they have to think their way and find a solution, thinking outside the box, something that they haven't been put into, a situation they haven't been put into. And it feels very much like this. These characters are put into a very unique situation. Black Canary is tied up and held hostage, something that she has had a terrible past of back in the Green Arrow comics. Oracle is in a position where she's helpless, she doesn't know what to do, and Huntress is in a position where she needs to work with people, which she is by nature a loner. So the story is actually really quite interesting, well paced, and the dialogue is very nice. I also like the Savant character that they introduced. A very basic character. He has nothing flashy to him. He doesn't wear a costume. It's just a t-shirt and jeans. Granted, he does have ridiculous Fabio hair. He is, by nature, image-wise, a very bland character. He doesn't have anything flashy to him. But he's a very interesting character. He has incredible skills in fighting. He's very intellectual. However, he actually has a short slash long-term memory loss. I don't know which one I would classify it as. And sometimes he would lapse and not know exactly how much time has passed. And the character is just a complete badass. And you can really take him as a serious threat because he totally takes control of the situation and dismantles the Birds of Prey team. And in that, he's actually a cool villain that I want to see continued in later Birds of Prey comics. And he does get shown up from here time to time in later Birds of Prey trades. He does make another appearance in the next trade, Sensei and Student. Bad. I can't really think of all too much bad about this, other than the fact that it takes some time for them to actually start working as a team. This is just more of a personal gripe. Like, Huntress doesn't really come in until a little bit later, but it's understandable seeing how the story is paced. So, again, this is more of a personal gripe. So, if we're looking at it of a technical standpoint, an actual unbiased reviewing standpoint, this really doesn't have any faults to it, which comes to whether or not you should get it. Well, if you're looking to get into Birds of Prey, this is definitely a great start-off point. Although I still recommend getting the Chuck Dixon stuff because it is very fun. If you want a little bit more updated, more flashy Birds of Prey, then you're going to get it here. This is great storytelling, great character interactions, and on a whole, just a fun ride. And the ending is a satisfying ending because after these characters get put through this traumatic, for lack of a better term, experience, they have to recollect each other and re-understand each other, and it is just very nicely done. So, like I said, Of Like Minds is a great starting off point for Birds of Prey, and it is Gail Simone showing her craft as a fantastic writer. So with that said, I'm going to end the review here. This is Andrew saying, peace out for now.